Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Slangin The Bizkit podcast. This is going to be episode 10 of the new Slangin The Bizkit podcast, joined by my amazing one-eyed co-host,
Here I am.
Mr. Dave Wheeler.
That's me.
How are you? I missed you.
Well, honestly, I wasn't expecting to see you in studio again until after the season was done. I thought you were out in the West Coast, and then you were heading straight out to the East Coast, but it's nice to have you back in the prairies.
Yeah, I came back for a day and a half, so I literally just came into from Vancouver this afternoon at 1, and here we are this evening recording the podcast in the amazing studio at Energy 106.
Yeah.
And here we are live for episode 10.
Yeah, here we are in we're moving buildings. Right now we're in Little Italy of Winnipeg on Corden Avenue, and when you walk down here, it smells like an old church basement. And it kind of reminds me of a conversation we had earlier on in the season about those old rinks that just have, you walk in and you can smell the stories on the walls. We're moving into a newer building, and it's going to smell like carpet paint or carpet glue the entire time. I'm gonna miss as weird as it sounds, I'm gonna miss the dungeon a little bit.
It's an awesome studio. There's so many nice studios that you have in here. It's almost like an underground dungeon, if that makes sense.
Totally, and we refer to it as the dungeon all the time. So yeah, you're not far off.
Perfect. So we're spot on.
Yeah.
Speaking of spot on, last episode we did.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people talking about your pickup lines, your pickup suggestions.
It wasn't necessarily suggestions; they were just anecdotes from my youth.
Okay. Well, so I posted the clips on TikTok, and the amount of people that said, "Who on earth would give this kind of advice?" This is the advice of a man who has no kids, no wife, no love life, very sexually inactive. And then I reminded the people in the comments section, I said, actually, Google Dave Wheeler.
Yeah.
He is married to not only a model, 10 out of 10 beautiful wife, a former Playboy Bunny, correct?
Former Playboy model. She was never I guess you could call her a bunny. She was a two-time Playboy model, got flown down to the mansion, hung out with Hugh Hefner, stayed in actually Marilyn Monroe's old room. When she was at the mansion. But yeah, I mean, she's been in GQ, she's been in Men's Health, she's been in Maxim, she's been in FHM. I mean, all of the big magazines around the world, whether it be for just modeling photos or for advertising campaigns. I mean, that is as she calls it, a lifetime ago. We met actually, to make the story very short, she's from Winnipeg, but she had been living in Bermuda and Malaysia and Australia, kind of touring around doing the modeling thing. And a mutual friend of ours sent me a text message saying, hey, a girlfriend of mine is in town. She's a professional model, and you should have her on your show. And I was like, we've had models on the show before. Like, I'll be honest with you, they're fun to hang out with, but really not a lot behind the microphone. And again, it's radio. And she said, this girl's different, trust me. And so we exchanged emails, and I said, hey, heard you're in town, want to come on the show? And she's like, yep, there's just a few things I can and can't talk about regarding my modeling contract. So if we can just go for a quick coffee at some point, let me know. And so we met at Earl's, Maine for a quick 15-minute coffee, which turned into a 4-hour lunch. And she needed a ride back to her cousin's place because there was like a little mini family reunion that was happening. And when I pulled up, she goes, do you want to come in? And so I met her entire family on the first day of meeting this woman. And we hung out the entire week that she was here, and then she went back to Australia and then to Miami. And then within 4 months, she packed her bags and we moved in together. And a year later, we got a dog, and then we got engaged, and then we got pregnant, and then we got married, and then we had a kid, and we've got 2 boys now, 11 and 8, and they're amazing. And yeah, once she sobers up and gets glasses, I'm in big trouble.
That's the saying. That I tell everybody when I show them, in Vancouver, the ladies that I was seeing, I was like, this is Dave. This is what I do the podcast with, Dave Wheeler. Not the radio guy. People know you on TikTok as.
Yeah.
But this is his wife, and they say...
Yeah, I know. I'm the 2, she's the 8, and we make a perfect 10.
Actually, I told one of the girls in Vancouver this. I said, she's a 10. I'm about a 3. You put it together, you get about 13.
Right.
You cut it down the middle, you get a 6.5. I think we stretch it to a 7. That's a pretty good day.
That's a good day.
You come out as a 7.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, listen, anyone that listens to my radio show or the podcast knows just how much love I have for my wife. And I know, there's that old adage of, the old ball and chain, but she is my ride or die. She is my partner for life. She's my soulmate. I know that word is used a lot, but I would do anything for that woman. And I have enjoyed the last 10 years of marriage that we've been in, and we've been together 13 now. And yeah, man, don't believe all the horror stories about getting, oh my God, getting married is the worst thing ever. I've loved all 10 years of it, and I'm looking forward to the next 40.
And you got 2 kids, so clearly it's working.
Yep, 2 boys, and they're great. They're awesome. Life is married life and being a parent. I mean, listen, anyone that's a parent will tell you that you don't really get a manual when it comes to this stuff. And I mean, I've been a father now for over 10 years, and you'd think you'd do anything for 10 years, you'd be pretty good at it. But constant learning. You're learning something new every single day, and you just kind of figure it out as you go along. It's a lot of fun, and doing it with her is just amazing. So believe me when I tell you, I Was I a single guy in my 20s and did I date a lot? Sure. But, it's the old saying of you got to slay a few dragons to get to your princess. I met my princess and I've been living in her kingdom ever since.
Speaking of dragons, we got to talk about our presenting sponsor, the amazing folks at Sheath Underwear.
Yes.
For powering this podcast. You can skip the line, skip all the dragons, and go right to the princess at sheathunderwear.com.
I like that.
And we're going to tell you all about it. Dave, are you wearing your pair?
I've always got my sheath on. Yeah, actually, I just spent some time out in the Ottawa Valley visiting my parents. And when I was packing up, I'm like, ooh, sheath, ooh, sheath, ooh, sheath. Been there for 3 days, so I'm going to need 3 sheath.
I have a story that I think will top it for you.
Okay.
So, new lady in Vancouver that I've been hanging out with before I came back today. I was up early in the morning making coffee in my sheath underwear and only my sheath underwear, just to kind of paint a picture for you. And she says to me, your, you know what, looks very large this morning.
And you say, that's because it is.
Well, I was honest. I was an honest salesman. I wouldn't sell many cars, but I was in the industry. But I said it is the Sheath dual pouch. It segregates everything. It stretches it out and spreads it out so you can breathe. And you can too. When you go to sheathunderwear.com, you use the promo code BIZKIT69. You can breathe so your balls aren't stuck to the side of your leg. Your twig is not stuck to the side of your leg. You're not like Austin Matthews getting pissed off at guys asking you to try their Buttendz grips. And you're like, nah, see you later, man.
Well, it's amazing. It stops you from having to do the old awkward pocket pool adjustment when you're out in public. It just kind of keeps everything where it's supposed to be. And yeah, it's great.
Actually, she told me, she's like, is that what that is? Like when guys like kind of like stretch their leg out, or they kind of like,
yep.
I was like, yeah, that's literally what we're doing.
People don't get that a lot. I mean, you'll see women a lot of times, like adjusting their bras and whatnot. Same idea. It's just, it's uncomfortable. And a lot of times you're like, oh, gross, he adjusted in front of me. It's like, it was uncomfortable. I'm not, come on. But listen, Sheath Underwear keeps everything where it's supposed to be.
And that's how we like it. We want everything compartmentalized, everything segregated, breathing at sheathunderwear.com. Promo code BIZKIT69. There's a link in the video description if you want to pick up a set, or on the podcast notes in the podcast description. And thanks to Sheath. We got Sheath a new contract. We're going to be on with them for 3 more months till the end of December.
How about that?
It's awesome.
And moving forward.
Moving forward, yes. Yeah. So thank you to Sheath for powering the podcast. Anyway. We got some stuff to talk about. We have some hockey news to talk about. Living situation. I'm leaving literally in 2 days, less than 2 days to head off for the season. So the living situation.
So by the time people hear this, you're already there.
Oh, yeah. But actually, that's another thing that I should let everybody know that. So my living situation, there may very well not be Wi-Fi at the place. So the podcast this week will go up. I'll finish editing it tonight and pop it up for Sunday. There may not be an episode next week. If I can't find Wi-Fi, I don't know how to get a podcast.
Do it at the rink.
I wonder what kind of Wi-Fi they have. See, the problem with that is, though, this podcast ends up being like a 300 gigabyte master file. So, like, by the time we all said and done, and it takes like a day and a half to upload the whole thing.
Believe me, are the offices for the team inside the rink, or are they remote?
That's a good question. I didn't ask that today.
Because you could always go, because I guarantee you they probably have whether how big it is, but I guarantee you they have internet at their office, and they probably have a small multimedia area. So do it at the office.
Okay. There is a podcast next week now.
There you go.
The week after.
Yeah. Either that or just go to Starbucks.
Yes, yeah. Starbucks.
They always got Wi-Fi.
You know what I love doing? People are going to judge me for this. I love it. You go in, you ask for an ice water cup. It is the best water in the world. It is triple filtered. Even the ice is triple filtered water for the ice. Free on the house, a Trenta ice water cup, massive. You just sit there and expose the free Wi-Fi. It's fantastic for working.
Love it.
You want a coffee too? You can get a coffee. It's like pumpkin spice weather.
Oh, it is. I had my first pumpkin spice latte when I was out in the Ottawa Valley, and I could tell it was fall.
You got the hot? You didn't get the cold?
Oh, yeah, it is. In this weather, absolutely.
I'm going to give you a hot take here. The cold cream, pumpkin cream cold brew is so tight. It is so tight. I buried like 7 in the last 2 weeks.
And listen, I know we're in Winnipeg. We're the Slurpee capital of the world. By the way, that's a true fact. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Slurpee capital of the world, 7-Eleven. Check the stats. I get it. We like having Slurpees in the winter, but for me, having a cold brew in the winter or in the fall, now, I'll have those in the summer, in the spring, sure, but no, it's all hot coffee from here on in until it gets warm again.
Keep in mind, this is Vancouver weather, where it's a little bit nicer than it is here. When I got out of the airport today, I told you in the car on the way over here, I was like, I've become soft.
Yeah.
It is. I'm like, this isn't Sweden. The leaves will still be orange for another like month and a bit. It'll be beautiful. Then it'll start raining in a month in Sweden, but here, it's like 10 today.
Well, you were in the closer to the southern point. Like you weren't in Umeå or anything, which is up north. So you got pretty mild winters when you were there.
I was literally the Vancouver of Sweden, right on the west coast. Rain, like we talked about the other episode, from October until February. Right. Rain every single day, and then the sun comes out and it's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredible. It's funny. I was even looking into certain areas of Europe, and you'd think. I mean, we're here in Winnipeg. We're actually an hour from the U.S. border, so we're pretty south as far as geographically, but cold AF here. Holy man! But you become climatized real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
that ocean coolness.
Well, listen, you're right on Lake Erie, man. Like, so you're going to be the humidity that you're going to get out in Detroit. And again, I know because my parents live in the Ottawa Valley, so they got the St. Lawrence River there. When that wind comes off the water, you cannot put on enough to stop that cold from ripping through you. Like, it's just a different kind of cold.
Yeah.
You may not get the snow, you may not get the deep below zero temperatures, but it's a different kind of cold out there. When you shovel, it's not like the white fluffy snow you get here. Like, you can actually, when you dig your shovel in, you can see the blue. Like, you can see the water in the snow out there. It's crazy.
Heart attack snow.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly it because it's so bloody heavy.
I do need to get a jacket. I got a jacket last year in Sweden because I thought it was going to be nicer than what it really was. And we had a blizzard and I had to get a jacket.
Yeah.
I returned it 5 months later at the store. Brought it back, said I'd like my money back. They said, what was wrong with it? Oh, I'm going home. Okay, sure. They took the jacket back. No joke. And actually, one of the guys.
You rented a jacket?
I literally rented a $200 jacket for 5 months and brought it back, got my money back.
Wow.
It was fantastic.
Good for you.
And I saved some space on the in the suitcase, bringing everything back home.
What's the protocol for when you're playing? I mean, listen, when we all played AAA hockey and that kind of stuff, you wore the team jacket. What's the protocol when you're playing pro? Do you wear the team jacket?
In Europe, it's very like casual dress code. Like we had like one of the guys on the team who always like dressed very nice, very clean. Most of the guys honestly wore track pants, sweatpants on like a road game or a home game. Like there was really no.
Even going into the rink? Wow.
Yeah, very, very laid back. I know I need to get a suit this year. I haven't bought like a suit in like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And I have nothing that fits. So that's probably sometime end of next week. I gotta get something that.
We had a rule for our dress code. It was either collar, tie, or your collar had to be outside of your suit jacket. And so a couple guys on the team went full disco. Yep. Chest hair popping out, big butterfly collars outside of their jackets because they didn't like wearing ties.
I was thinking about doing that. I don't like the tie. It's too restricting.
Go full disco, man. Go full Dirk Diggler. That's the way to go.
And I got the haircut going up tomorrow to freshen up the fade and the mullet, so that'll work nicely with the disco look.
Absolutely.
I just need an Austin Matthews stash and we'll be rolling.
Are you getting excited now? Are you at that point where you're getting?
I'm really excited.
Are you anxious? What's the feeling?
It's a little bit of both. I'm excited. I'm ready for the season. It's been. We're end of September, beginning of October. The season ended in March. It's like, let's get down to hockey. Like I wanted to start a month ago. I'm also a little bit nervous. Like I don't know if we talked about it before, but so I signed in the Fed 3 years ago in Columbus. I thought, like everybody says online, it's like a men's league. It's a beer league. It's not very good hockey. The guys suck. I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. I did not come in prepared. I also came to camp with a knee injury, and you factor in trying to play with a knee injury. You also weren't prepared. Like it just. Terrible. It was horrible.
Well, think about this. Once upon a time, the Allen Cup, which is the senior men's championship here in Canada, once upon a time, like that was the next best thing to the Stanley Cup. I mean, if you weren't playing NHL, you were usually playing senior hockey. I mean, obviously now we have numerous leagues across the world, in North America especially, but this is a step up. I mean, you go watch the Allen Cup, you go watch your rural teams play and try and qualify for the Allen Cup. It's good hockey. I mean, these are former players from the WHL, University, Western League, all sorts of junior. And so you take that a step up to guys that are actually focusing on not having a job and then going to the rink and practicing. Like this is a full-time gig. You're going to get some solid hocky players in that league.
And you get some guys that'll like burn you and make you look ridiculous.
Yeah.
Especially when like, you're not prepared and kind of all that stuff. So my agent and I, we had a talk on the phone actually yesterday about exactly this. Like just put the past aside. Like I screwed up. I messed up before. It is what it is. Nothing we can do about it. I've come into camp prepared now. I'm healthy, which is honestly kind of a miracle. 100% healthy. I had a great month of training in Vancouver and a little bit in Hamilton. I'm ready. I'm feeling good. I just have to stay healthy and then go and execute the game plan. So I talked to our GM on the phone today, and we mapped out a game plan, expectations, starter, backup. So starting out of the gate, I am not going to be the starter.
You know that already?
I am not going to be the starter on paper right now.
Okay.
So we have one guy. His name is Trevor Babin. He played in the league last year. He is on paper the starter, and that is the expectation. I would slot in at number 2, and then we have 2 local guys who will kind of slot in at 3, 4. If we ever need a goalie, training camp, we need 4 goalies, so those 2 will be there.
Yep.
But that's the plan. A great training camp can change a lot.
Of course.
Both, maybe he has a poor training camp, I have a good one, or I have a poor training camp, he has a good one, and now I'm the third guy, and I'm getting sent home. So that's the thing with North American Pro is that you have a bad week. See ya.
Well, yeah. Well, listen. I mean, don't sell yourself short. I mean, it could go the other way too. I mean, any smart coach knows that he rides the hot goaltender, right? And I mean, the advantage that you have rather than in the NHL where there's a lot of politics, and even in the American League, if you've got a young guy who maybe you have a better veteran goaltender in the American League, but the parent club wants you to ride the rookie because they want to get him seasoned. You could be on the backside, or even in the pros. the big money guy is going to get more time than the lower money guy. But you're in a situation where you just ride the hot goaltender, period. There's nobody looking above, no one looking below. There's no expectations as far as money and that kind of stuff. So it comes down to who's playing better. And if that's you, any coach would be an idiot not to ride their hot goaltender.
Well, I think the two is you have an expansion team where there's no pre-established roster. There's no like starters, all this kind of like everything's fresh. You come and have a great training camp. I show that I can stop the puck at a competent level. And on top of that, make saves that maybe other guys shouldn't. And I have the intangible assets to provide confidence to mostly the coach and the coaching staff. I'm going to get starts. I was told, though, I guaranteed will not be starting opening night. The opening night start will be going to the other guy.
Okay.
And then we're playing a 3-3 to start the season off. So I'm going to get one of the games. Which one, we don't know, but it will not be the opening night start. So to all the people that messaged me that they bought opening night tickets, I'm sorry you're going to be watching me open the gate.
Yeah, well, you'll be there for warm-up.
I'll be there for warm-ups.
Yeah.
Happy to stop pucks and...
Hey, you're in a uni and you're on the bench.
Exactly.
For those that are outside of that viewing area that can't go to the games live, are they going to be streaming games?
Yes. So every single game, not just like our games in Motor City, but all Fed games will be live streamed free on YouTube. So the full broadcast. I believe they have play-by-play as well. They in the past.
I haven't gotten a phone call yet, by the way, for that play-by-play.
You said don't call you.
No, well, if they can afford me.
Okay. We have to reach out. We got to get some money, and then call Dave, and then we'll get Dave
then
to
give me a
come on
shout.
out.
Yeah,
that'd be great. That would be great to have you out during the season.
Oh my God! Well, it's funny because I got into radio after my eye injury in hockey, and I got into radio because I wanted to stay involved in hockey. One of my minor hockey coaches, his name is Mark Stiles. He was the play-by-play guy for the local junior team in Fort McMurray, and he was also the sports guy at the local radio station, and he was my coach. And I always loved the fact that he was able to, do hockey for a job. And so the whole idea of getting into radio was to do play-by-play or something involved in hockey. And then after I went to college, I just kind of fell ass backwards into the whole morning show comedy thing and been riding that for 25 years. But yeah, the whole reason I got into this was to do hockey. So the fact that, we're doing a hockey podcast now is right up my alley. And yeah, I'm only 43. So, I've still got lots of broadcasting years left.
You're not 26?
I feel like I am sometimes, but my kids make me feel a lot older. But yeah, listen, I would never say no to at least looking at an opportunity like that.
When people message me that listen on the audio or the Apple or the Spotify version of the podcast, they say, describe Dave to me. I said, well, he's young, he's chiseled, he's good looking, he's got
thanks for lying.
Good jawline.
Yeah, thanks for lying.
And then they look at the video version, they say, oh, Dave's off this week.
Yeah.
Dave's on holidays.
Who's this guy? Yeah.
This isn't Dave. Nope, this is Dave.
Not the guy you described.
That was last week. That was Rob.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, he's a handsome devil.
He does
moly.
meet that description.
He does, yeah.
Actually, we should talk about that little story I told you before we started recording. So last week's podcast, we talked about how Rob was doing a demo day for the Los Angeles Kings and goes down there to see Jonathan Quick specifically because he spent, I believe it was 2 years playing with Quickie in the with the Reading Royals in the Kings organization.
Okay.
So hasn't seen him in 15 years. Goes to see him. Quickie, how you doing? And first thing he says to me, maybe I shouldn't be repeating this, but he's like, damn, man, like Quickie looks old. Like Quickie's looking real old. And so Quickie's like, oh, Rob, good to see you. How old are you again? Rob's like, oh, I'm 40. How old are you? 36. Rob doesn't look a day over 25.
No.
And he has looked like that for the last 7 years I've known him.
Yeah, he's got that Scandinavian blood in him, though, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, poster child-looking thing. And yeah, he's been aging well. Rob, if you're listening, good for you. You lucky son of a gun. Handsome.
You know who he looks like? And I've been telling him this for years with the jawline, with the hair. He looks like Wes Scantlin, a puddle of mud, before he...
Wow. Yeah, I would say a little healthier Wes Scantlin, yeah.
Before he started strapping like pipe bombs to people's cars and buzzsawing their fences.
I bet you Rob sings better too.
I love Puddle and Mud, but the last couple of years have been kind of
It's been tough. A bit of a struggle
it's
for
those
guys.
Tough to watch.
Yeah. It's been a bit of a struggle.
You know what? Sorry, this is really off topic. You know who's really got my attention lately? Jacoby and Papa Roach.
Okay.
His TikTok game is so tight. He's so engaged with people, and it's just been popping up all over TikTok for me lately. I started getting into some of their music. Some of the music they have at Papa Roach is incredible.
I'll tell you, I've dealt with those guys a few times in my radio foray, and as much as they seem like just a band of misfits on the surface, where they're just these punk rockers, it's rare that you see a band that are that dedicated and that hardworking. Like everything they do is so calculated and hard working. I mean, they are constantly working. They're constantly rehearsing. Like that stage show is so well mapped out. And Jacoby Shaddix is, I would say, the de facto leader of that. But yeah, when you see a band like that, you don't realize a lot of the hard work that goes behind it. And they grind They grind for everything that they've gotten. So good for them.
You know, I was listening to an isolated version of his vocals for their new hit single, No Apologies, and like some of the other stuff. And just like the isolated vocals, how smooth, how powerful it is, it's incredible. And then the live version sounds identical. Like, how hard is it to find an artist who sounds identical live?
Well, it comes into the hard work, man. Again, that comes down to the hard work. They seem like they're just they're a bunch of punk rockers and have a little bit of talent. No. That all comes from hard work, man. I guarantee you, he is working with vocal coaches. I don't know if that's true or not, but I bet you that's more than just raw talent.
He's not quite the Kurt Cobain, goes to see a vocal coach.
Right.
They put the tape in the tape recorder, and then they laugh and they throw it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think it's quite like that. I don't think he's like Justin Hawkins where he's gargling wine before every show. Yeah.
That's the next level.
Yeah, well, Justin Hawkins, who is from the Darkness, he ended up having to have vocal cord surgery because he just abused his vocal cords so much, but he can hit falsetto like nobody I've heard.
The other guy who had vocal cord surgery was our boy Chad Kroeger.
Yeah, they've got a new record coming out as well.
The Keep Rolling or Let's Roll. I can't remember
that's
the new
right.
title.
Yeah, San Quentin.
How heavy is that song? You want to talk about that for a sec?
Sure.
How good is that new hit single, the San Quentin?
I'll say this about Nickelback, and again, a band that I've been able to sit down and have chats with here and there over the career when they were much smaller and they were coming out of their first record, The State. But
this is before Silver Side Up.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So Chad figured out the chemistry and the right variables that needed to make a hit song. And people, for whatever reason, called them sellouts and, what are you doing, blah, 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 blah. Chad said right from the get-go, I want to be a rock star. I want to be rich, and I want all the things that come with it. And he figured it out, and I applaud him every single day. You don't have to like them. You don't have to. There's no contract as a Canadian saying that you have to like Nickelback. You don't want to listen to him? Don't listen to him. It's a spice of life. But you can't fault the guy for doing everything he set his mind out to. I mean, I just finished watching that movie King Richard with Will Smith. Say what you will about him. But there is a guy who, Richard Williams, who raised Serena and Venus. And I had no idea that he had planned that out. He's like, these two girls are going to be tennis superstars. One is going to be ranked number one in the world, and one's going to be considered the GOAT. Like, he planned everything out. Chad was the same way. He had all of this planned from day one. He knew how to do it, and I give him all the credit in the world.
Conspiracy theory, hot take.
What do you mean?
Like how he planned everything. He mapped out the success from going from nowhere in Hannah, Alberta to the. And I think I know the video you're talking about where he mapped out the magic formula for that hit song. Mm-hmm. The whole loud, quiet, loud, the Kurt Cobain kind of inspired formula, but then also followed by the lyrics are something that is universally accepted, and it doesn't take rocket science to look at the Nickelback lyrical sheet and say, okay, I know what he's singing about.
Yep.
He's not hiding it. He's not, and it masterfully sounds incredible. Like the people that don't like it, the heavy, like I love the 2003 kind of the Long Road. I love All the Right Reasons, but the Long Road I think was the heaviest, best sound, and the new San Quentin sounds just exactly like that.
Well, listen, they are getting into the realm of the AC/DCs of the world, where you know what you're going to get. AC/DC comes out with a new record. They're not going to go crazy and do a fusion jazz album. You know what you're going to get. It's going to be... Nickelback's the same way. If you're expecting anything new out of that band, then you're going into it with the wrong attitude.
They were for a little bit, though, with the Here We Stand album, I think. No.
That's just a different producer. That's just a different producer. That's a producer coming in going, because they worked with Mutt Lange once upon a time and all these different producers and Bob Rock. And a lot of times a record will take a shape when a producer gets his fingers on it. Now, Chad has his own studio out there in Vancouver and he does what he wants. Is he experimenting a little bit with different sounds? Sure, but it's still Nickelback. You're still getting Chad. You're still getting that doom 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 da 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 doom 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 da da da. It's a formula. And look, if you have a win, it's the same reason why the Atlanta Braves made the playoffs for so many years in a row in Major League Baseball. They followed a formula, they played Moneyball, and it worked for them. So why would you fix it if it's not broken?
Moneyball.
Yeah.
There's the good teams, there's the bad teams, there's 50 feet of shit, and then there's us.
And there's the Oakland Athletics. Yeah, God love Billy Bean.
You see the video of Chad Kroeger? He put it on Instagram the other day. I can't remember if it was his Instagram or the Nickelback Instagram, but he's flying out Tommy Lee to his mansion. He flies him out, and he's like, I love being rich.
Yeah. Right? I was sitting down with Dee Snider from Twisted Sister once upon a time and sat down and I said, hey, man, how are you? He goes, I'm great. I'm Dee Snider. You just love that confidence. It's amazing. I mean, God love those guys. They always say more money, more problems. Actually, there's a great line from a movie Boiler Room where I think it was Ben Affleck. people say that money. People that say money is the root of all problems don't have any. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather have the problems that come with money than not.
Well, in all reality, it does fix a lot of the issues that you have, like people that can't afford groceries, like the bare bones essentials. But the actual like problems you have, let's say, I think money just makes you a bigger version of what you had before. It enables it. If I'm making if I'm making $10,000 a year, I can't probably like enable the real version of myself and what I truly want to do. I make $10 million, do whatever I want. Nobody can tell me otherwise.
There's an old riddle that goes like this: the rich need it, the poor have it, and if you eat it, you'll die. And the answer is nothing. So the rich need nothing, the poor have nothing, and if you eat nothing, you'll die.
Okay.
Right?
That's powerful.
Right?
That's really powerful.
Isn't that something?
Almost as powerful as our next sponsor, the folks at Manscaped.com.
Hey, there you go. I love this.
The Lawnmower 4.0. Let's talk about it for a second. So, this is a brand new one. This is not game used yet.
Oh,
Actually,
wow. Okay.
No, sorry, it is. It is game. It is game used. So this is the Lawnmower 4 from the folks at Manscaped.com. It has skin-safe technology. Now, I personally have two. One we talked about before for neck south. We have one for neck north.
Yep.
For trim the fellas, all that kind of stuff. North of the port. It was north, right? Or was it south of the port that we tried to trim? I can't remember. I'm not very good at this kind of stuff. But Manscaped,
The transition was great, though.
Manscaped is great at all this kind of stuff. So it's going to give you 90 minutes of battery life, a smooth shave. You want to trim the chest. You want to do the arms. Maybe you look like a gorilla, like some other people out there in the world. They got you covered.
It did a great job on my shoulder wells.
Perfect.
Yeah, right underneath the armpit, nice and easy. Like I getting a razor in there sometimes is hard to get some certain spots. This thing took it down, no problem.
Yeah.
It was great.
And no itch, too, which I kind of like because it's not going right down to the wood.
Yeah.
Although the only problem you will run into is if you're me, taking a beautiful blonde lady, a 6-foot-tall blonde lady on a date, she will then haze you and say, do you trim your legs? And I will say, yes, I look more vascular like this. And she will then say, you look like a woman. Please grow them out. So I put my attachment on. We did a number 2, and now we're good. And you can, too. You go to manscaped.com. You can use the promo code BIZKIT, BIZKIT, and it'll get you 20% off free shipping exclusively from the folks at manscaped.com. There's a link in the video description and the podcasting notes. As always, somebody sent me a message actually today. Said, Trav, listen to the new podcast for this week.
Yeah.
I was making dinner, eating my cheeseburgers, and I spit my cheeseburger out listening to the Sheath Underwear ad about Austin Matthews sticking his balls to the side of his leg like a piece of gum on a high school desk.
Wow. I would spit out my hamburger, too.
Incredible. The guy spent all this time making a beautiful burger, and now it's on the floor, and the dog's picking it up. The dog was happy.
I bet.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't he be? Rover's eating good tonight. Fantastic tonight.
You should call it Austin. Call the dog Austin.
Oh, for Austin Matthews.
Yeah, there you go.
He's got a weird way of spelling his name. Auston.
Austin.
Auston.
Yeah.
From Arizona. But you know who's not from Arizona? It's my new girl.
Tell me all about the new Fräulein.
I have some funny stories to tell you. So we talked about how I was going to be living with the Irish lady, right?
Yeah, Conor McGregor's sister.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was gold, by the way. Everybody I told that to was like,
The walk.
and I pictured it too because like I know like the apartment. She's walking down the hallway, and I was scarred. I was absolutely scarred. So my plan was for if you're joining the podcast recently, traveling was expensive this summer. Instead of getting an Airbnb for $4,000 for the month or a hotel, I went on my dating apps and asked, "Girl, hey, can I stay at your place? I will pay your full month of rent because a mid-20s woman will take that deal any day of the week. Give you $2,000, perfect. I don't spend $4,000, everybody wins." Did it. Ended up being terrible because she threatened to kill me. I said, I'm going to leave. She gave me my money back. Everybody wins. I went to a new Airbnb, which bought me time to get a smoking deal.
Yep.
So I ended up paying like less than what I was going to pay for her rent. I paid like $1,900 for basically a full month in Vancouver.
Yep.
That's a win if you ask me.
Bingo.
Now I was in a new location, so my dating apps are set to that range. I meet this awesome girl who is 6 feet tall, beautiful blonde girl. In my opinion, the most beautiful girl I've ever met in my life.
Wow.
Stunning. Great smile, great eyes, all that kind of stuff. And on top of that, we talked about the potential. You have me at 6'5", you have her at 6 feet. Everybody comes together, reproduce, an NBA prospect. Now, she doesn't like the whole NBA prospect idea because she's like, basketball's kind of boring. And spice of life, as you say, everybody's entitled to their opinion. She wants to be a hockey mom. I said, hockey's a little expensive. What kind of job you want to work? I'm not going to be able to afford to put kids into hockey. You see what I do for a living?
It's so funny you say that. We were chatting about this on our show last week, and just kind of did a random poll on what it was costing parents this year to put their kids in hockey. Some were calling in with like $7,000 per kid when you add up all of the gear and the ice times and the travel. Like, my God, that's unbelievable.
It's literally crazy because less than 10 years ago, I was playing the same Winnipeg AAA hockey that you would be playing at now. And I asked my mom, what did you pay? $5,500 for the season. Yes, you have to pay your, let's say, $2,000 for the summer to train with a goalie coach, for workouts, all this kind of stuff. So you buy gear, it's expensive. Now that same AAA hockey, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, is $10,000 to $15,000.
Unbelievable.
You have the Prep Academy, the RHA Prep Academy, that what I'm told, $25,000 to $30,000.
Unreal.
Who has that kind of? That is literally a full-time, decent job for your kid to play hockey.
Yeah. You know what's funny is, remember how golf back in the day used to be like, oh, that's for country club kids, and oh, the rich kids play the golf and the tennis. Hockey is getting into that territory. Like, it's getting into that realm of you can only do that if you are well-to-do. It's crazy. Either that or you go into a ton of debt to get your kids to play hockey. And I mentioned this on the show. My kids like hockey. They like hockey. They enjoy watching the Jets. They enjoy, they enjoy getting a stick and shooting the ball around and whatnot, but they haven't shown a real desire or love to be like, I want to play. They'll do public skating. We'll take them out skating. They enjoy that. And I'm not disappointed by it. I'm not going to be that father who lives vicariously through my son saying, because I didn't make it, they're going to make it. They're in jiu-jitsu. They play golf. They kick the soccer ball around. I think sports are important in a child's development. For structure and discipline and just, overall athletic prowess. But I am not disappointed with the fact that my kids are not playing hockey. Number one, for my pocketbook, and number two, because there's a lot less concussions in golf.
We can talk about the culture side of it in a sec. I think the best thing about you putting your kids in jiu-jitsu, as somebody who I did my first jiu-jitsu experience this summer, is when I went to the jiu-jitsu studio, I thought it was going to be a bunch of meatheads throwing each other around, trying to beat each other up.
No, it's ground chess, man.
The amount of respect in that studio, like whether you're black, brown, purple, blue, white belt, everybody respects each other. We're here to learn. We're here to get better. There is no egos. It's parked at the door, and it's an incredible atmosphere. Nothing like I've ever experienced in hockey before. In hockey, you know personally that you have all these macho men. You have all the different.
That's an alpha male thing, absolutely.
All the alpha males of the world are playing hockey. But in jiu-jitsu, you may be that, but you park it at the door, and everybody's here working towards a goal of getting better, self-defense, all that kind of stuff. I love it.
That's what I love about it, too. It's very zen. It's very centering. And as a parent, having both my children learning a martial art discipline gives me a lot more confidence as they're going to get older, knowing that, yeah, you're okay. I know you're going to be able to handle yourself in a situation. So, yeah, I have a little more confidence than if you were just sitting at home doing nothing, being a pile on the couch. You know what I mean? And again, that's why I think regardless of what kind of sport it is, I think it is essential in a child's development.
Well, someone pops off, you want to be able to take care of it. Like, you'd probably feel a lot more comfortable knowing that your kid could snap somebody's arm than if you're like,
right,
this might be a bad day for me and our son because we got to go to the hospital because he don't know how to defend himself. Somebody's stronger. Like,
and keep in mind, I mean, I would say probably about 25% of the class that the dojo they go to are females, and I love seeing it. I mean, what father and mother would not want to have their daughter learn how to take care of themselves in a situation?
Some of the most endearing experiences I had in that jiu-jitsu studio was when the women were throwing me around. And the white belt women...
Yeah, you like that, don't you?
I do like it. I'm not going to lie. I did enjoy it. Like, for example, there's this one lady who's a little bit of a larger lady, and she just tossed me around like a sack of potatoes. And then even like a taller, skinny lady at the studio, same thing. Proper technique, proper posting out. She was working me. And not in like you would at manscaped.com or sheathunderwear.com, but in the jiu-jitsu sense.
Yep.
And to kind of, I guess, bring it all back around, one of the things that Victoria and I talked about, like with the hockey mom creating a NHL draft pick prospect at 6'7", was like the hockey culture. Like for me personally, as somebody who's been playing for like so long, I know you've spent how many years playing hockey. I look at the way hockey is, the way the hockey is trending, both the financials like we just talked about, the way people treat each other. I heard a bombshell story that we're not going to name names. The people that are involved in the Hockey Canada
lawsuit
thing,
right now, yeah.
I'll tell you after we finish recording. There are some names that you will not believe at the National Hockey League level that are involved.
Oh, it probably wouldn't turn me any different shade of blue. I mean, nothing surprises me at this point.
But why is it being kept a big secret? Because the gatekeepers have money involved in these players.
Absolutely.
And they want everything hush-hush.
Yep.
As opposed to actually fixing what is the core problem, what is right and what is wrong, is the fact that these young men, because they're young men, whether you want to say, 17, 18, 19, they're young men, are disrespecting people. They're disrespecting young women, taking advantage of them, and not being able to have emotional control. He takes hate for it all the time, but one of the best things that I like about Andrew Tate says is how men that lack emotional control are the most dangerous men on the planet because they have impulses and they don't know how to control them. And the Hockey Canada situation is exactly that. Men are taught to not have emotional control. I think in hockey, they're allowed to get away with all these things, and it breeds this culture that like, to be honest, like when I'm done playing hockey, I'm totally fine like distancing myself from hockey. Like I've had enough of kind of like seeing all this kind of like the hockey culture shape into what it is today.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, I never fully remove yourself from the game because it's a beautiful game and it's one of the best in the world. And I have fond memories and have tried to block out the bad ones, but it needs to go through a shift. And we've had guys that have tried to call it out in the past who have been kind of like, you're crazy, and that guy's crazy, and what he's talking about, and they just kind of get pushed underneath the rug. But there have been voices that have been trying to shed light on this for a long time, and there is a part of me that thinks this is going to get shuffled under the rug again, and it's just going to kind of go away. I mean, it's getting less and less press as we go on. But yeah, something's got to change because it is too good of a game to allow this to have it hanging over its head.
I think a lot of things in the world, and I know we see eye to eye on a lot of things, you and I, in this realm, but the gatekeepers and the people that hold the key and the ticket to the hockey community and those decision makers, they're not going to let go of that power, and they're not going to, like, those are the people that are going to change it. The guys stroking the checks that are in charge of all these players that are coming in, making them how many millions of dollars, those are the gatekeepers you got to take out. And you literally can't because they're the most powerful people in hockey.
Right.
I know it's kind of like vague, but like you get what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's I'm curious to see what happens. I really am. I mean, the second the federal government got its nose poked in there, you kind of think, all right, we're heading in the right area. But I have my fears and I have my doubts.
I think it has to get worse before it starts to get better with the current status of...
Tell you what, I think this is the best way to kind of deal with it on a more local level rather than having somebody else deal with it for us is if you are a parent and you have a child in hockey, talk to your kids. Talk to your kids. Be totally okay with... And I'm going to relate this to a Netflix show that I just finished watching, and I'm partly disappointed that I watched it, but I watched it anyways. But the Dahmer Netflix series.
Everybody's talking about that
with Evan Peters. And I watched it more through the eyes of the father who sat there and went with the whole, what did I do wrong? Like, where did I go wrong with this kid? And they kind of show elements of his childhood and the way he was ignored. And there was times where Jeffrey Dahmer would say, Dad, I have these feelings sometimes. Dad would go, is this a sex thing? Okay. Well, and then he would just completely change the subject, and he's not willing to broach those topics. You got to be able to talk to your kids about this, and you can't. You're the authoritative figure here. You got to be the one to say, it's okay to talk about this stuff. Please tell me about this because I can't help you fix it unless I know. So as gnarly as some of the stuff is that you probably think is happening, or if you think, oh, no, it's fine. I did the same thing. I did the locker room. It's just boys. It's just, boys being boys. You got to be able to have those conversations with your kid, and you got to be able to guide them into what is right and what is wrong, and be able to stand up for something when they say, I was uncomfortable when I saw this, but I went along with it because I didn't want to have the peer pressure of being ostracized from the locker room. You got to have those tough conversations with your kid, because if you're not, then you're just perpetuating the situation.
Well, is it boys being boys, or is it boys being allowed to disrespect people and not being taught what's right and
wrong? But that's
wrong?
the attitude, right? It's just boys being boys, and they'll grow out of it. And that's just part of the process, and that's the way it's kind of shuffled off, and we ignore it, and then, again, it just snowballs, and it gets worse. You got to be able to talk to your kids, and you got to be able to listen to your kids. Actually hear them when they're trying to tell you these things or ask you things, because they don't have any other source of whether this is right or wrong. They're being told it's right in this culture, but you got to be you got to be there to be able to step in and say, no, that's wrong. That should not be happening. And you got to be able to send them in with the right ammunition to be able to stand up, and regardless of how hard it is, to be able to say, no, this isn't right.
Well, I think, and maybe I'm curious if your take on this. So, like, when I was a kid, I always used to think that my dad was really tough on me. Like, why is my dad like so hard on me, so tough on me? Now that I'm an adult at 26, I see my dad set me up for success. My dad set me up to not end up like exactly the problem we're talking about, because my dad would crack the whip and say, this is right, this is wrong, you don't do this shit, there's no exceptions. And I'm really disappointed if you do those things. Like, do you have a take on that with your kids at 8 and 11, right?
Yeah, 8 and 11, yeah. And I'm very open with my children, and I let them ask questions, and I don't shy away from it. And I listen, I could always be a better father. I'm always trying to do better than what my parents did. And I'm trying to remember the things that I didn't like and trying to, implement. And when my kids ask, I'm going to say, just try and do, your only job in life is to try and do better than me at everything. Just try and do better than me. If there's things that you didn't like about what I did, fix it and do it differently. I'm not saying what I did was right, but I did my best, and I'm trying every single day. So when it comes to my kids, Am I hard on my kids? Yes, I'm just hard on them in a different way than my father was. I'm trying to be able to shift it in a different direction because culture changes.
One thing I was going to mention, this is the funniest thing I'll tell you from my entire endeavors in Vancouver. I was talking to Victoria about the UFC and whatnot, like Joe Rogan UFC, and she says, they fight in like a pentagon, right? In the Pentagon? And I looked at her and I said, no, that's where the U.S. government is. They fight in the octagon.
Right.
That's the 6-sided one? Yes. That's where they fight. In the eight-sided.
Eight-sided one.
Sorry, my bad. No, I'm getting doing it to myself now. I hope she doesn't listen to this, but one thing I wanted to finish off with before we cap off and say our farewells before I head off to Detroit on Thursday.
Best of luck, man. I'm excited for you.
I'm very excited as well.
We'll all be watching very closely
and the podcast,
streaming those games on live.
For free on YouTube. The podcast will continue, though. We'll keep doing our Skype version of the podcast where we kind of edit it to make it look like it's in person.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your eye for a second, like your hockey story.
Sure.
So you have one functioning eye.
Yeah.
You are the one-eyed devil in the podcasting world here.
Yep.
How did that happen?
Long story short, so back in the late 90s, we didn't have all of these camps and these options to go and work out and stay in shape all the way through. And so guys that were coming back from university or college or junior or whatever it may be, we just all kind of pooled our money together and rented the ice a couple times a week and just so we could stay in game shape. And we tried to take it as seriously as possible because when you're playing pickup hockey, you pick up a lot of bad habits. So we tried to keep it as structured as possible. We weren't doing drills, but when we were out on the ice, we tried to run systems and make sure that we were playing to the best of our ability to make sure that we were in ready to go for when camp started. And it was just one of those freak accident things. I had my visor on, but I had it propped up, like you did back in the day and then in the Western League. And I was coming out of my zone as a defenseman, and I was looking behind me, as you always do as a defenseman. You make sure you're the last one out of the zone. And I was crossing my blue line. On the far blue line, a guy on the opposite team spun around on one foot to just kind of dump the puck. And guy on my team put his stick down in front of it. And when he spun around and shot the puck, it went right up his stick and came in. And as I was turning my head, I took a puck in the eye and I broke my orbital bone here and there, completely destroyed my eye. You can still see scarring through my eyelid. Cosmetically, I got lucky, like it's still my real eye. But the way the doctor explained it was after the swelling went down after about a week, I had to drive to Edmonton to go see a specialist. But they explained that the retina is on the back of your eye and it's like a tissue paper. If the retina comes off, no problem. They can put it back on. But they said you literally shredded your retina. And if you think of it like a tissue paper, if you had a tear in a tissue paper and you tried to sew it up, you can't. You just end up doing more damage. So it was pretty much, you're not going to be able to see out of your right eye moving forward. And because I couldn't do that, there's vision requirements for playing, and I just that was it. I was done playing as of that moment.
So you have one functioning eye and one real eye that doesn't really do anything.
That's correct. And actually, it's funny. I go back every once in a while and get my eye checked, and they go, "Well, you're still blind." I'm like, "Thanks." Although I really enjoy screwing. If I go to the doctor's office and there's a new nurse that I haven't seen before, of course, before you go in and see the optometrist, they'll sit you in front of like one of those, like I like to call it the owl mask. And they sit you in front of that and they do a quick eye test so they can get all the stuff down. And she goes, "All right, let's do the left eye and have a look. I'm going to do a few different lenses. All right, let's do the right eye and tell me what you see." And I'm like, "Nothing." And she goes, "Oh, interesting." So she'll check the machine. "How about now?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, still seeing nothing." And she'll look at the chart. She goes, "Oh God, okay, yeah, you're impaired in that eye. Sorry about that. I should have read that beforehand." But I love screwing with them every time. But yeah, one of the doctors actually told me that right now, like if I move, my eye moves with me. Like you can't tell. But as I age, it will get weaker because it's not being used, and it could start deteriorating. And one day, it may just fall in my soup.
It'll just like pop out.
It might.
That'd be hilarious.
Possible, right?
If we could do it right here in the podcast studio.
No, I'm saving that exclusively for my wife. That's going to happen in an old folks' home, and I'm going to say, "I've got my eye on you."
It's a standard bowl of chicken noodle soup.
Yep.
We order the extra meatballs and the pho.
It'll be like an Indiana Jones movie in the Temple of Doom, just eyeballs floating around in my soup.
That's great. You want to know where eyeballs also float around? This podcast.
Yes.
Every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. in China. We do 10 a.m. in Winnipeg, 9 a.m. in Calgary, 8 a.m. in Vancouver on the West Coast, 4 in Sweden, 3 in the UK, 5 in Finland. I have the time zones dialed in.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, the video version on YouTube. If you're listening on the Apple or the Spotify version, leave us a review. Give us a 5-star review. Let us know what you think. If you want to support the podcast in ways that are beyond getting Sheath Underwear or Manscaped Lawnmower Care Package, There is a Patreon page if you want to pitch in $5. We don't have any perks yet. That's something I do need to work on. I've been putting that aside for a few months, but hopefully get some perks, maybe some mugs, maybe some merch, maybe something. That's on the to-do list. And Mr. Wheeler, it is a pleasure to do the podcast as always with you in person.
Best of luck this season, man. I'm looking forward to your first start with the Motor City Rockers, and best of luck this season, man. I'll be following along.
Awesome. And we will see you.
Send me a hat. I'll wear one.
A jersey. We'll get you a jersey.
Send me a hat.
2 hats.
Okay.
We'll see you next Sunday.